Average at Best Cornhole here. Reynolds Bags, I guess they've been around for 15 years now, and to help them celebrate, we got possibly the most forgiving herringbone bag we've ever thrown in the Renegade, and then the tried and true Typhoon.
Speeds on these, and with the Renegades, we do have your usual 9.5 that we see on a lot of herringbone carpet bags, and the Typhoon's also rated at 9.5, but we're going to see a lot of variations depending on the conditions and the humidity on the boards because it's a linen bag, but it does tend to average out around a 5.
As he said, I mean, the materials on these, the Renegade, they do have herringbone. This is the popular herringbone that you find on most other herringbone bags. Now, the fast side, it is the same fast side that they put on their Pro X. The Typhoon, it is a linen bag, and this linen material, I guess a lot of people call that the Surefire material. This is actually the other side of it, which I think is a little bit softer than the Surefire. Pretty much acts the same. The only difference to me really is that softness. And they do share the same fast side on both these bags.
All right, templates on these, and the Renegade is, a medium template, but it's a little bit of a fuller, so you can definitely do your cuts and rolls with it. The Typhoon is also a medium template, but I'd say medium to, thinness. That bag definitely stretched out a little bit, I think.
It definitely stretched more than the Renegade, so I imagine they were probably the same size squares, but It does feel a little bit larger than the Renegade, and it is thinner, like he said. Getting into the fill and flop. Now, the Renegades are easy because we can fill these, and I mean, it's just a lot of flats or disc or whatever. It's very nice hand feel to it, and like we teased on, they are forgiving because of that. Now, it is a little bit on the fuller side, so I wouldn't call it a floppy bag. It's more of a fuller bag than a floppy bag. The Typhoon, we're kind of debating on the fill a little bit because yes, it does feel like there's a lot of flats in there, but you also, just feeling through the bag, you get something bulky every once in a while. So I don't know if that's a small round or even a semi-round or something.
Speaking of the fill, the flop, just a little bit on the Renegade. So I've realized that they've changed their fill from the 24 to the 25 stamp. So be a lookout on that when you're, looking for these bags. There's definitely a big difference. We were at a switch a few weekends ago, and my partner had Renegades, and he's like, hey, you want to throw Renegades? I was like, oh, perfect. I'm into those bags right now. Well, his were the 24 models, and they were considerably different, and there was a lot more larger beads, more round, so completely different bag because of the fill, in my opinion.
Getting into bagmanship, and there's nothing wrong with the bagmanship on these. I mean, 15 years, they know what they've been doing. Right. It just really reminds you of an old school cornhole bag, just by the shape, and like if your grandpa had a favorite cornhole bag or something, that would be what a Reynolds is.
All right, we're going to our slide up, and lately we've been talking about a highlight and a low light, that we found with each bags. And I'm going to start with the Renegade because I'm very excited over these bags, right? So the highlight for me is the forgiveness that this offers with a herringbone. It's kind of been the unicorn I've been looking for, I think, because I've been trying so hard to play the herringbone. I know that to me it has some of the best capabilities of any material, but I struggle with the forgiveness that it offers, and the Renegade has it with that, what feels to be a completely flat fill. There's a ton of forgiveness in this that you don't see in any other herringbone. But with that said, with the low light, it's just a little bit less active than you see on your normal herringbone. So that's kind of the only low light, but for somebody like myself, I will trade that activity for forgiveness any day.
Yeah, and then the Typhoon, I mean, it's just a good all-around bag. It's just a common cornhole bag. We're all familiar with these materials, and in perfect conditions, it does play great.
It does.
But the problem with it is you get a little humidity or whatever, and that thing's going to be like sandpaper on your boards, and it's really not playable at that point. Yep. So great winter bag, but might have to store it away once summer kind of comes.
With the forgiveness, and yes, the Renegade is a forgiving bag. Now, it's not going to be known for pure forgiveness because it is still a herringbone, but when you match it up against other herringbones, it is very forgiving. So for that, it gets the forgiveness nod from us.
Yeah, and the Typhoon, I mean, it's a forgiving bag too. It's a linen bag. It's like we said, it's stretched, so it's a little bit larger, a little bit looser, so it just kind of hits, flattens out and slides straight.
Yeah.
Until that humidity comes, and then now you're going to start seeing some kicks and stuff just because that material is really going to want to bite into the board. On the whole bodiness and the Renegade, it's not a whole bodiness first type of bag. Yeah. I mean, it is herringbone. We all know herringbone sticks up, a little bit. It's got that flat fill. We all know flat fill tends to hang, some when you get it close. But, I mean, that bag's a lot more than just a whole bodiness bag.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would say with all those things kind of going against it, it's still got some decent whole bodiness.
Yeah, I guess for a herringbone and a flat fill bag, it does have a little bit more than what you would think it would.
Typhoons, though, and again, in perfect conditions, it's what I would call very hole friendly. Has great whole bodiness. Of course, that's going to change in humidity, and it's just going to hang around the hole. But, we've been throwing these a lot indoors, and I've seen others have been throwing these bags a lot, and it goes in a hole, and it likes to just find its way there.
Yeah, and I mean, it's got enough looseness and enough flop that the odds of it catching that hole and swinging around or falling is a little bit better than what that Renegade is.
Yep, absolutely.
Moving on to collectability and the Typhoon, I mean, yes, it collected, especially if it was straight on, but I didn't see that thing like excel in collecting. Like nothing stood out to me that said, oh, that's a bag that's good for collecting. Now the Renegade, on the other hand, that's another spot that, that bag is very, very, very good at collecting. With a little bit more fullness and that, the flat fill in there, we had no issues at all. And if it was sitting on the board, I mean, it was easier to nudge it over, I guess, and get it in your lane.
Yeah, super easy to nudge it over, and sometimes you would just completely pull it over. And that's what I really liked about this bag as well is, you have that one off on the side, you got to throw a little bit of a cut to get it, and you kind of won every time with the Renegade. It was awesome. Playability, and I'll start with the Typhoon, and you're going to run holes with it. You can do some cutting with it. It's not the easiest bag in the world to cut, but it does cut, so you can beat other blockers with it, as well as from time to time you can put your blockers up with it, and pretty easy, decent collects with it and stuff. But for the most part, I think we're running holes with that bag. Yeah,
the Renegade then, I mean, it's like you run holes with it if you want, or play that dirty style game with you want. And I honestly think it's like the perfect doubles, bag or whatever, because a lot of time doubles partners, one's running holes and the other one's playing that dirty style game, with the blocks and the cuts and rolls or whatever. Well, that bag can do both of those. So, and also if you go to a switch or whatnot and you want to do those cuts and rolls, and you can, but you get paired up with someone that can't, the bag's still good enough, especially with that forgiveness, that they're not going to get punished by that bag.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's kind of a good call out. That's an excellent double bag. That's not really something you think about too much when you're picking your bags to go to switch. But like, well, what might my partner, if I get an average or below partner, what am I going to throw that's going to work well from them? Well, Reynolds has found the answer to that. Just some company information. Easy to find these guys. It's just reynoldsbags.com, and they also have the Facebook group, and that's at Reynolds Bags, right?
I think it's Reynolds Bags Cornhole.
But
okay. I'm sure if you put Reynolds Bags in, you'd probably be able to find that also.
Yep. So get on there, check them out, and see what else they have to offer other than these two.
Moving on to costs, and another great thing about Reynolds is, I mean, their bags start at $74. I think there's other designs that, are a little bit more money, but $74, and then there is discount codes available for them also.
Finish up with our overall thoughts here, and of course, I'm going to talk about the Renegade, and as I mentioned before, it's kind of my unicorn, I've been looking for a keeper herringbone. I've been going through everything that's pretty much available on the market, and so far, this is probably the one that I'm going to keep in the bag. I've really, enjoyed the differences with this bag, it being a different fill, offering that little bit of forgiveness, but without completely sacrificing what a herringbone's capable of. And that's kind of how I feel about this Renegade, and I'm excited we got it.
I agree with him. I was surprised how easy it was to play, especially being a herringbone, because I'm not a huge fan of herringbone, but I've been looking for a good herringbone bag myself, and Reynolds is definitely, that Renegade there is at the top of the list. The Typhoon also, I mean, overall thoughts on that, it's just your all-around typical cornhole bag, right? I guess I don't know. Nothing like really stood out about it, but nothing was like bad about it. It is a great bag. It's going to be also, you go to a switch or whatever. No one's going to have any complaints throwing that bag, I don't think.
I don't think so at all. And, to add to that, we had these out last Friday when we were at our switch, and I saw some others playing, with those bags that were average players like us, maybe, a little more to learn than us even, and they were being very successful with that bag. So I think it's a great beginner bag. I think that's a good place for somebody to start.
All right, with all that said, if you want to be average at something, be average at cornhole.